Hello and welcome to CAN TV Conversations. I'm Irene Chang, and today we're talking about how Asian Americans in Chicago are reacting to the recent spike in anti-Asian hate crime. Joining me is freelance journalist and Professor Mei-Ling Hopgood. Professor Hopgood teaches journalism at Northwestern University and recently wrote an article in the National Geographic about navigating the Asian American experience. Thank you so much for being here, Professor Hopgood. Let's start with your beautifully written piece in Nat Geo. What was the inspiration to share your story?
Well, to be very honest, National Geographic asked me to write something. They wanted to humanize the recent reports about harassment. But I've shared my story before, but I thought it was really important that we talk about this issue and we keep talking about it, because often it gets lost in everything that's going on.
Right. And I know you do talk a lot about it with your students. And as you mentioned in the article, you struggled with embracing your identity, especially growing up in an adopted white family in Michigan. You even say that you wanted to be anything but Asian. What was that like for you, and how did you grow to overcome those feelings?
Sure. I think that being adopted had less to do with how I felt about myself than being surrounded by people mostly that didn't look like me. And some of the harassment that occurred when I was growing up, people saying very ignorant things, making fun of my being Asian, I heard very regularly. So I really do feel like my experience was less about being raised by white parents than the surroundings in society, and that it was okay to say something to a young kid who, I was just a kid and people would say dumb things to me all the time about being Asian. So I think over time, going to college and really starting to embrace my identity as an Asian American, of course now, up till now, I feel very proud to be who I am, but I feel very strongly that it's a continued fight, and it's a continued raising your voice and telling your story so that people can learn and grow and understand.
Right. Thank you. And you mentioned that the Asian American students you teach at Northwestern have a very different experience from yours when you were in college and growing up. How do you think that's changed today?
Yeah, I think our students generally, not just the Asian Americans, are exposed to a society and media, from television to journalism to, that is much more diverse. And sort of the standard that they're raised with in school, in around them, and not in a perfect way, is that we need to treat people who are different in whatever sense with respect, with kindness. We're a lot more aware of differences, and you see it all around. So I think what I see in my students is definitely a greater comfort with diversity and inclusion, and actually demands that we in society and we in journalism are more diverse, are more representative, are being thoughtful and sensitive, and that one experience in the United States is not put above others.
Right. Thank you. And so you're now teaching a course at Northwestern called Covering Asian American Stories, which I was very happy to hear about. Tell me about how the course was implemented and what you talk about during that class.
Sure. I'm an affiliate member of the Asian American Studies in Northwestern, and I've always wanted to teach a class like this. My expertise and my experience as a journalist, I've had more experience in Latin America, and I studied Spanish in college and had a lot more experience in Latin America. But obviously I have an interest and a connection to Asia. I traveled, I met my birth family. It's a very long story. But I've wanted to teach a class like this. I just haven't had the chance in my schedule. And this year I usually take global trips with students, and this year we couldn't. So I thought it was a perfect opportunity to do this class, which was very powerful for me personally and as a teacher more than, I think, 3/4 of the students identified as students of color. And so we had this really powerful conversation that, I mean, I think whatever the composition of a class can have powerful conversations, but this one was fairly unique to me. And at a time when I feel like we needed to be talking about the historical context in which everything is occurring, as well as what is occurring, why, and the journalism and the media coverage related to it.
Right. And kind of going off of that, what are some of the questions or issues that students come to you with in that class? How do you navigate talking about sensitive topics like the Atlanta shooting last month, and what do students kind of ask you during class?
I mean, well, so the Atlanta shootings happened after the class ended, and I was feeling literally the week. So I felt like I wish we could get together to kind of share and talk about what had happened. I mean, I think, so they're second year students mostly. I think we're all, including myself, trying to figure out where our place is in society and how we feel about ourselves and how we're viewed by other people. Mm-hmm. And there was a lot of discussion and questioning about our role, what stories we should tell, and for students who did not identify as Asian, what is their place in writing stories about Asian American mm-hmm. people. We talked about, anti-Black behavior in the Asian community. We talked about sort of hard conversations about the things that are going on and how basically we can do the research, the reporting, the work, the trust building, the critical thinking needed to be ethical and thorough journalists. But there's a lot of question about what is going to be my role in this journalism world. When do I speak out? What is my place? And how to really make an impact. So, I mean, lots of questions about identity, but also about journalism and storytelling and where we fit right now.
Right. Thank you. That's very important. And so we talked really briefly about the Atlanta shooting, but there have been a lot of other anti-Asian hate crimes as well. And in light of that recent spike, what do you think started it all?
I mean, this stuff has existed. I think it was activist Helen Zia. She actually came to our class. She's a legendary journalist and activist who was involved in the Vincent Chin case in Michigan when I was growing up. It just seems like it's sort of this roller coaster of consciousness among communities, particularly the Asian American, about this kind of harassment and belief and treatment and the anti-Asian, anti-Chinese rhetoric going on. It doesn't go away. It wasn't away, but there was sort of like a complacency for a time. And now it's all stirred up again because of the way our former president and his supporters talked about Asian people. So, I mean, a society under a great amount of stress, financially, health, all that. And then the act of leaders making a scapegoat of people is going to have an impact. And this is not the first time this has occurred. It occurred, like I said, around the time of the Vincent Chin murder when I was growing up. There was very strong anti-Asian rhetoric because of the trade war or the perceived trade war between Japan and the U.S. So we like to, well, not we, but some people like to blame our problems on others.
Right.
It's easy to do that with people who seem foreign or not part of who they want to.
Right. All right. Thank you so much, Professor. Thank you again for joining us. I'm Irene Chang. Thank you for watching KNTV.